So the first question I'm going to go for is from Zish Weinholtz.
Beautifully pronounced,
I am so sorry. This person says, I'm interested in the Te Araroa Trail and I'm thinking about walking it. Have you guys ever walked it? And does it go through Fjorda National Park? And how long might it take? Okay, so a full disclaimer right here. Although we do have walked many parts of the Te Araroa Trail as part of all the hiking that we do around the country, we never took and spoiler for the rest of the video, 4 months that it takes to go for the whole trail. So we haven't done it all in one go, but we've done many hikes along the way. So you do have a lot of really beginners questions for the Te Araroa Trail right here. So we decided to kind of answer your questions and also give you a little bit of introductions for like a beginner's guide to the Te Araroa Trails. So let's get started with what is the Te Araroa Trail.
Yeah, so the Te Araroa Trail is a nationwide trail in New Zealand, which starts from the very northern tip of New Zealand at Cape Reinga and ends at the very southern bottom of the South Island in Bluff. So that is quite the journey, and it is not something really to be taken lightly.
It goes from here all the way down to here.
Somewhere in the middle there.
Here.
Yeah.
So, and you will go through obviously the whole island, and not on purpose, don't go through the island right here because we don't
exactly know every single nook and cranny of the
We could do the research,
trail.
but I wouldn't trust my drawing. But basically it goes through the entire country.
Exactly,
All right, so a few numbers. The whole hike is about 3,000 kilometers. If you are watching this from the US, well, it is many miles. The hike takes about 4 months to do, and that's if you hike about 25 kilometers per day. So that would be kind of a steady pace, but not too crazy as well. It's just something that will keep you quite busy. Now, throughout the track, you will be kind of in the wilderness for quite extended period of times because between towns, you will be left without seeing civilization for 2 to 8 days every time. But when you go to town, then you can resupply a little bit.
Yeah.
Another thing which is worth mentioning is that it costs nothing to do. It costs nothing. You need some money to do it.
Yeah,
and
it has associated expenses.
But there is no cost to do the Te Araroa Trail. So it's not something you have to pay or anything. You can get a lot of free map. There is also a free app, and you can get all that from the teararoa.org.nz. teararoa.org.nz. So it's really good. And if you feel like, you may run out of battery on your phone, which makes sense if you may be 8 days without seeing a city, you can get from it some maps and some books and everything like that. They are, obviously you have to pay for those, but it's very small costs for something that you're going to do for 4 months.
Yeah, and for keeping on the right track as well.
All right. So now when it comes to organize the hike, Laura is going to give you a few information.
Okay, so the recommended months to sort of start the Te Araroa Trail, if you're going from north to south, which is generally what most people do.
It's the recommended way to do it,
yeah.
Definitely, because it allows you to finish the descent season down the South Island. So it's all about the season and when is the best to do it and all that. So north to south is the best way to do it.
Yeah. So generally, some good months to start the Te Araroa Trail in the north of New Zealand is to start between September and December, which is sort of toward the end of autumn and going into summer, just so the weather is getting warmer, and it's usually a good time to actually be starting your hike when knowing that you've got 4 months ahead of you. You want to generally be sort of hiking while the weather is warm, especially if some of your stays are going to be in Department of Conservation huts, for example, or camping or anything. It's usually more outdoorsy activities, and it's also generally nicer to hike when there's a little less rain, for instance. So that's generally why it's a good time to actually start sort of just as summer is starting to get on its way. So it's generally recommended to finish the trail in Bluff at the bottom of the South Island before April. And as you go down the country, you will realize that it tends to get a little bit cooler, and the weather's maybe a little bit rainier, more on the west coast of the South Island as well. So yeah, it's generally better to make sure that you sort of finish the trail before winter hits the South Island, because then that's generally a little bit more uncomfortable for hiking for that amount of time.
Exactly. So the other thing that people tend to not understand is that doing such a trip in New Zealand requires experience. Although New Zealand has some of the best hiking facilities for beginners, most of the hikes are super easy to do around New Zealand, as a beginner. There's well signposted and everything. For one of those, for the Te Araroa Trail, you need to be experienced. You need to be able to fend for yourself with the elements for the required amount of time. You need to be prepared for delays. If the weather is really bad, you may be stuck in some places for a little bit longer without any means to get out of the wilderness that you're on. So you kind of need a certain degree of experience to endeavor the Te Araroa Trail. Now, the Te Araroa Trail also, although I mentioned that it was free to do, it is not cheap to do. Okay, there is going to be all the costs between the dog hut pass, so you can sleep in the dog hut. When you are arriving near cities, well, there are things called trail angels that can host you. So there are people that could actually host you while you hike the trail. But you're also going to have all your costs, including like being in the city. You have to resupply, you have to do all those kind of things. You have to pay for the ferry to cross as well. You have to pay for just making your way from the closest town, which is called Pahia, all the way to Bluff to get started. So you have to pay for that as well. So there is quite a lot of cost included. You have to get your beacon, so safety beacon, very important. Don't start without that. So if you don't have, at the worst, at the minimum, you need 5,000 New Zealand dollars as a budget to do that.
Yeah.
As more safe, you won't save 7,000. You need to have enough money to be able to tackle something like that. It's an amazing adventure, but don't turn it into a nightmare by just not being prepared well enough. So I just can't stress that enough. Now, if you want to get started with the Te Araroa Trail, there is a really amazing place to get started. It's called teararoa.org.nz. It's a charity trust which kind of runs the trail and all the communication for it, and it has all the tips, and you can even register there so they can actually keep track of where is everybody. It's just a little bit safer and all that. They won't come and rescue you. You still need your beacon. But they kind of like to monitor where is everyone and how it works. So do make sure that you actually do a lot of research. Watching this video should be just the tip of the beginning of the massive iceberg of your entire research for doing that. You do need a lot of equipment and a lot of preparation for it. Yeah. But it's an amazing thing to do. We met so many people that have done it all in one go. Throughout all our adventures, we met people on longer hikes that have done it, and it's really epic. Yeah. Now that I scared you to death, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to make it. I'm never going to do this hike. There are still some options for amazing walks around New Zealand, which are part of the Te Araroa Trail, because one of the things that this Te Araroa Trail does is that it basically links a lot of existing hikes together in order to make one long hike. So you, as a hiker, and the reason why we say we've done many parts of it, you can actually do sections of the Te Araroa Trail yourself, just by doing day hike or even sometimes multi-day hikes. Yeah. So can you give us a couple, and also can we answer the question? Is it going through the Fjorden National Park? And what's the section which will be the closest to the Fjorden National Park that also may be a day hike? Okay.
So first of all, the Te Araroa Trail doesn't actually go through the Fjorden National Park. It goes sort of more into the center of the Southland region, which is the region which the Fjorden National Park is in. But Fjordland is on the west coast, and the Te Araroa Trail doesn't actually go into that section. But can you remember the name of the hike of the
Long Hill?
Long Hill Walk, is it? Yeah. So So an alternative day walk you can do nearby is the Long Hill Walk, which is sort of near towns like Reefton and Tuatapere and Riverton. And yeah, that's just a walk through like what used to be an old sort of Chinese mining settlement, which has then been overgrown by the bush that's coming back. So that's quite a cool sort of section of the Te Araroa Trail, which you can do sort of as a day walk, or there's even a small loop walk there as well, which takes about 2 to 3 hours to do. But there is
North Island. What is really popular hike that is part of the Te Araroa Trail?
So a very popular hike, which I'm sure most people have heard of, is the Tongariro crossing. This is actually part of the Te Araroa. This is a really hard word to say. Te Araroa Trail. And yeah, it's a day hike which it's a one-way hike. It's about 19.4 kilometers or something like that. Generally takes people about 6 to 8 hours to complete. It does involve taking a shuttle service to get from one end of the track to the other. And it's famous for its volcanoes and amazing sort of vibrant green lakes and just being in a really incredible volcanic landscape. But yeah, also another one that is on the list as well is the Te Araroa Trail actually goes through the Wellington Botanic Gardens. So if you're in Wellington and you're checking out the gardens, you will actually see little signs for the Te Araroa Trail. So yeah, there's that as well.
That is not the most challenging part of the hike, let's be honest, walking through the Wellington Botanic Garden. All right, cool. So I hope that this video was useful and help you to actually kind of understand a little bit more about the Te Araroa. And again, it's just a beginner's guide. We know that it's just to give you a few tidbits of information and also give you the tools for you to start your research again. If you did find it useful, make sure to like and subscribe to this video. It's a great free way to say thank you for all our hard work. And in the meantime, I'll go back to the live chat.